sometimes, when you step into a pile of dog poop and you walk into somebody's home, the best thing to do is turn around and walk out. But Donald Trump's going to sit there, look down, and go, "Oh, I stepped in dog poop. It stinks. I'm going to scrape my shoe here, and I'm going to, no, Donald, you're just spreading it around. You can't repair what has been done. NATO and the United States has lost in Ukraine. You're not going to walk out of this with your head held high. You have dog poop on your shoe. Leave the house." That's the best solution for Donald Trump right now. And the sooner he recognizes that, the less they talk about it. Make Ukraine a non-issue. Just unplug and leave. Watch how quickly the world forgets about Ukraine, because Ukraine is as irrelevant as the day is long. Nobody cares about Ukraine. It's only relevant because Western politicians make it so.
Scott Ritter just dropped a bombshell. His words aren't just criticism, they're a declaration of total defeat. According to him, NATO and the US haven't just stumbled in Ukraine. They've stepped into a disaster they can't wipe off. This isn't just about policy failure. It's about humiliation on a global scale. Ritter paints a grim picture. The West isn't salvaging anything. They're only making the mess worse. And his solution? Cut losses, walk away, and pretend Ukraine never mattered. But the real question is, can the world truly forget Ukraine? Or is this the prelude to an even greater catastrophe? Scott Ritter's grim assessment of NATO's failure paints a picture of a war spiraling beyond the West's control. But while he argues that NATO should cut its losses, Russia isn't slowing down. In fact, they're intensifying their efforts. The past 12 hours have brought a series of shocking developments: a record-breaking drone attack, the destruction of key Ukrainian infrastructure, and increasing signs that Russian forces are preparing for a major assault across the Dnipro River. Let's break it all down. Ukrainian authorities have reported that the past night saw the largest drone attack in the entire war. According to official sources, Russia launched an unprecedented 267 Shahed drones across the entire country, focusing primarily on Odessa and surrounding regions. The scale of this assault surpassed all previous records. Despite Ukraine's robust air defense systems, only 138 drones were successfully intercepted, while 19 vanished from radar with unknown consequences. The remaining drones caused massive destruction, hitting infrastructure, key facilities, and civilian areas. Ukrainian social media has been flooded with videos showing explosions lighting up the night sky, burning buildings, and the constant roar of anti-aircraft fire. This attack wasn't just about overwhelming Ukrainian defenses. It was a calculated strike aimed at softening up strategic locations before a potential ground offensive. The Russians targeted Odessa's critical infrastructure, with reports indicating that a hotel where Western officials allegedly held meetings was destroyed. Additionally, several strikes were directed at Ukrainian military positions along the Dnipro River, indicating Russia's focus on weakening Ukraine's southern defenses. Moreover, Ukrainian sources suggest that Russia is increasing its attacks on ports along the Danube River, possibly aiming to disrupt Ukraine's grain exports and further strangle its economy. If these strikes continue at this scale, Ukraine could soon face serious logistical and supply chain disruptions. Russia's targeting of Odessa and the surrounding regions is no coincidence. There is growing speculation that these attacks are part of a larger effort to set the stage for a major Russian operation aimed at capturing Odessa and connecting it with Transnistria, the pro-Russian breakaway region in Moldova. Reports indicate that Russia sees Odessa as a non-negotiable demand in any potential peace settlement. Some analysts believe Moscow is using the massive drone strikes to cripple Ukraine's defenses ahead of an even larger offensive. In the past, Russia has escalated air attacks just before launching significant ground offensives, and this time the signs are even clearer. At the same time, Russia has been stepping up its missile strikes on Kherson, a city that remains a critical stronghold for Ukrainian forces along the Dnipro River. The fact that Kherson has been hit multiple times over the past 24 hours suggests that Russia might be trying to weaken Ukrainian defensive positions ahead of a river-crossing operation. While the drone strikes dominate headlines, the most concerning development is the growing evidence that Russian forces are actively preparing to cross the Dnipro River. In recent days, Russian military media have been spreading footage of training exercises focused on river crossings. These exercises simulate the movement of armored units and infantry across large water bodies, indicating a potential push to seize control of Ukrainian positions on the western bank of the river. Additionally, Ukrainian intelligence has reported that Russian engineering units have been spotted near the Dnipro, assembling makeshift pontoon bridges and preparing amphibious assault forces. This strongly suggests that a major Russian attempt to cross the river could be imminent. If successful, this maneuver could put Ukraine in a dire situation, as Russian forces would gain a foothold on the western bank and potentially open a path toward Mykolaiv and Odessa. Russia has been relentlessly bombarding Kherson and surrounding villages in an attempt to soften up Ukrainian defenses. The city has seen multiple waves of drone and missile strikes, causing power outages and disrupting military logistics. Moscow's strategy appears to involve gradually wearing down Ukraine's defensive positions before launching a full-scale assault. Intelligence sources have also reported that Russian reconnaissance units have increased their presence along the Dnipro, conducting probing attacks to test Ukrainian defenses. Additionally, there have been unconfirmed reports that Russian special forces have already infiltrated some areas on the western bank, engaging in limited skirmishes with Ukrainian troops. If these reports are accurate, Russia might already be laying the groundwork for a larger offensive push. Beyond the Dnipro region, Russian forces have made noticeable territorial gains in the past 24 hours. Reports indicate that Russian troops have advanced north of Novokamyanka and have begun moving towards Dnipro. According to Ukrainian sources, roughly 60% of a Russian armored convoy managed to break through defensive lines, forcing Ukrainian units to regroup. Pro-Russian sources claim that their forces have also made progress near Borov, capturing key strongholds and forcing Ukrainian troops to retreat. If true, this would mark a significant shift in momentum, giving Russia a tactical advantage in the region. Moreover, deep state analysts have adjusted their battlefield maps to reflect new Russian territorial gains, particularly in contested areas. These updates suggest that Russian forces are gradually tightening their grip on key front lines. Despite these setbacks, Ukrainian forces continue to put up fierce resistance. In response to the growing Russian offensive, Ukraine has been launching counterattacks in multiple sectors. In the Sumy region, Ukrainian forces successfully recaptured lost territory, forcing Russian troops to retreat from border areas they had occupied just days before. Meanwhile, Ukrainian drone strikes have been targeting Russian convoys and supply lines, attempting to disrupt Moscow's momentum. However, Ukrainian commanders acknowledge the growing intensity of Russian assaults and warn that the coming weeks could be critical. The sheer scale of Russia's recent attacks, from record-breaking drone strikes to frontline advances, signals that Moscow is ramping up pressure in a way not seen in months. What happens next? All signs point to an impending Russian offensive that could shape the next phase of the war. The recent record-breaking drone strikes, combined with evidence of Russian forces preparing for a Dnipro crossing, suggest that Ukraine could soon face one of its toughest challenges yet. Ukraine will need to bolster its air defenses, reinforce frontline positions, and prepare for potential amphibious landings. If Russia succeeds in crossing the Dnipro, the consequences could be devastating for Ukrainian forces, as it would open new fronts and stretch Ukraine's already strained resources. As the war intensifies, one thing is clear: the coming days and weeks will be pivotal in determining whether Ukraine can hold its ground or if Russia will make its most significant territorial gains since the start of the war. The past 12 hours have revealed a rapidly escalating conflict, with Russia launching an unprecedented drone assault across Ukraine and intensifying their military operations on multiple fronts. The massive drone strike, which saw 267 drones deployed, demonstrates Russia's commitment to overwhelming Ukrainian air defenses and targeting critical infrastructure. Despite Ukraine's efforts to intercept and neutralize these threats, the scale of the attack highlights the sheer pressure the country is under. Odessa, a key strategic city, has been particularly hard hit, and the persistent bombardment suggests that Russia may be laying the groundwork for a larger offensive aimed at securing control over the region. At the same time, the developments around Kherson and the Dnipro River are deeply concerning. Russia's military exercises and preparations for river crossings indicate that they may be planning a major operation to push across the Dnipro. This would mark a significant escalation in the war, as any successful crossing could open the door for deeper territorial advances into Ukraine. The movement of Russian convoys, the adjustment of frontline maps, and the increased use of heavy aerial bombardment all point toward an impending push. Ukraine, however, has not been passive. The armed forces of Ukraine continue to resist fiercely, adjusting their strategies to counter Russian advances. Ukrainian counterattacks, particularly in contested regions, show that despite overwhelming odds, the defenders are still capable of pushing back and reclaiming lost ground. The battlefield remains fluid, with both sides suffering losses and adapting their tactics. The situation in Sumy, the renewed fighting in Luhansk, and the heavy bombardment in the southeastern front all contribute to the larger picture of a war that is far from over. What happens next will depend largely on Ukraine's ability to sustain its defenses and the level of support it receives from its allies. The West must recognize the urgency of the situation and accelerate the delivery of critical military aid. If Ukraine is to prevent a major breakthrough by Russian forces, it will need more air defense systems, long-range weapons, and logistical support. This war is at a critical turning point, and every action taken now will shape the future of the conflict. Stay informed, stay engaged, and spread awareness about what's happening on the ground. If you found this analysis insightful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more updates. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Where do you think this war is headed? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next update.